Now let us try to understand each line of the first C++ code that you have just wrote. The first line of the C++ code is hash include, then inside a less than and greater than symbol IO stream. By saying hash include, we are saying the C++ compiler to include a library to our current C++ program. And this IO stream is the name of that library that we want to include. And this hash, this letter greater than symbol, less than symbol, everything is syntactical sugar. So this entire line hash include IO stream means we are including a library named IO stream in our current C++ program. Let's go to the next line. The next line is using namespace std. That means we are going to use a namespace called std. Now, this namespace is something where all these libraries and there are several other things in C++ are organized in a nice way. Now, in this course, we are not going to understand the detail of namespace because that needs some understanding of object-oriented concept and other advanced concept. So, we are not going to know it in more detail, but always remember that inside this std namespace, there are several C++ functions defined, and that is why we will utilize this using namespace std followed by a semicolon in all our C++ code in this course. Now the next line, which is the main part of C++. The next line is int main followed by an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis, just like in here. This line actually indicates the entry point of any C++ program. It is just like the fact, let's say you are writing an email and you started your email with dear sir or dear ma'am or something. By seeing that dear sir or dear ma'am, that phrase, the other person can understand, well, this is the entry point of your email. Just like that fact, in C++ also, whenever the compiler will encounter the line called int main followed by opening and closing parenthesis, the compiler will understand, well, this is the entry point of my C++ program. The next part is this opening and this closing curly brace. Now, this is a syntax for C++ program. Now, while writing an English paragraph, what you do normally is between two paragraphs, you add some extra space or you start it little bit from the little bit right instead of from the left margin, something like that. You follow some kind of convention. Just like that fact, in C++, whenever you will write some block of code, some piece of code, you have to follow this convention of enclosing that part of code or block of code or piece of code inside this opening and closing curly brace. So this is a convention and this is a syntax. If you do not use these opening and closing curly brace, your program will end up in an error. The next part. Next part is the function that we have called or that we have written to print hello world. This is the actual implementation. So this cout is the function that is already defined in the C++ compiler, C++ internally, and we can use it to print some string on the screen. Now this cout library is implemented inside this IOStream library, and since we want to use cout in our program, we have included IOStream. Now I believe it is more clear that why do we need to hash include. I include this line like hash include IOStream. This is because we are utilizing the cout function to print something on screen. Now regarding the syntax of cout, that is how to print hello world. So cout will always followed by two less than symbol, as you can see in here, and the string that you want to print should be enclosed inside double quotes, just like this. And each line of C++ or each instruction of C++ program should end with a semicolon, just as you can see in here. Now, one thing I must say that here, followed by the cout, you can enter as many instruction as you want. For example, I have written only one cout, hello world. You can write another cout just like this. Let's say hello institute, something like this. So you can do as many instruction as you want, you can write in here. But always remember that should be inside this, after main, inside this opening and closing curly brace. And the last line of the main function is return 0, which says that okay, this is the end of the program, and from here while executing the program, you can stop the execution at this point. We will learn about this return when we will learn function in C++, but for now just take it as a syntax that all right, the last line of the main function is always return 0 to depict the end of the program. Now here I must say another thing. While including a library, there can be as many number of libraries as you want. You can include it in here in this place. For example, in C++, IOStream is not the only library available. There are some library which can do some kind of mathematical operation. So you can include those libraries also if you want to use their functionalities. For example, math is a internal library in C++, and if you want to utilize it, you can do hash include math, something like this. So in a nutshell, the first part, you have to hash include all the libraries that you want for your code. Next, the namespace std, what you want to use in your code. Third part is the actual code that you have to enclose inside int main, followed by opening and closing curly brace. So that is all about your first C++ program.